В реалния свят виждаме редица подобрения. Рампи за инвалидни колички, бутони с брайлови надписи в асансьорите, звукова сигнализация на пешеходните пътеки.
Какво можем да направим, за да бъде и софтуерът по-достъпен за хора с затруднения обаче? Как да направим приобщаващ софтуерен продукт? Как да сме сигурни, че потребителите на равностойно здравословно състояние ще имат равен достъп до нашето творение?
За тези цели се въвежда тестване на достъпността, accessibility testing. А нашият следващ лектор ще ни представи основите на тестовете за достъпност.
Лена Константинова е консултант по въпросите на качеството в ThoughtWorks Германия. Занимава се професионално с тестване на софтуер за веб и десктоп приложения повече от 3 години с фокус върху различни тестови дейности. Изготвяне на подробна документация, повишаване на производителността на екипа, използване на agile методология и споделяне на знания. Тя е активен участник в различни технически конференции и срещи, а извън сферата на QA играе в театъра и слуша пост-рок музика.
Днес Лена прави своя дебют като презентатор, именно от сцената на QA Challenge Accepted. Така че очаквам вашите бурни аплодисменти за Лена Константинова!
Thank you. I hope they were not saying something bad because I didn't get a word. So let's start. So accessibility testing, first of all, before we dive deep into that, can you raise your hand if you know what is this or if you are doing it? Okay. You don't? You don't? Your mother would be so disappointed of you. Come on. Actually, it says here the name, everything you need to know about accessibility testing, right? But I fooled you. It's a trick because you can't know anything. Like, it's impossible. So today we'll just scratch a surface, just like a little bit, itsy bitsy, and I will try to tell you like the basics. What is it about, and why you need it. Before we start, just some words about myself. I don't see it here, but I see it here. Just some words about myself. My name is Lena. I'm from Stuttgart. I work there, and I work at ThoughtWorks. So ThoughtWorks, it's a consultancy. It's a really big company, and this is the company that gave Selenium to the world. We also have GoCD and some other tools. And one fact about me, I really like Hello Kitty. And if you come to my home, you will see like a lot of goth-style black furniture and some toasters with Hello Kitty and some forks with Hello Kitty as well. Before we start talking about testing, how to test, what is it, I think it's really important just to know the term itself, like what is it in general. If we go to Wikipedia or some other sources, accessibility is ability for some low mobility groups and people with disabilities in general to access products, devices, services, etc. So in other words, what is it? Developing and designing for people with disabilities. If you like numbers, here is some statistics. This is statistic for the whole globe, all over the world, not the specific country. So you can see that 1 from 5 has some sort of disabilities. Sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's physical. It doesn't matter, but it's some sort of. Men and women ratio, it's kind of the similar, but women is a little bit more. It's 56% and men is 44%. And the last one, it's the employment rate. So you can see that only 52%, so just half of people with disabilities, they are employed. And people without disabilities, 73%, way more higher. And we need to change this. And with the help of accessibility testing, we can change this. Before we go further, I should say that today we are not speaking about how to make elevators accessible or how to make our roads more accessible for people. No, of course, this is about web accessibility. And when we are speaking about web accessibility, it's about making web universal for everyone. What does it mean? It means that The way you are designing, the way you are developing your product, your environment, your application, your website maybe, the way you're doing it, it is accessible for people with disabilities in practice, but philosophically, it is accessible for everyone. So no matter in which environment you are, no matter have you disabilities or not, no matter where you are trying to access the product, no matter what, it should be accessible to you. It should be universal to everyone, so the more people can access it. Of course, in all of the rules, there are exceptions. And we have exceptions here as well. Sometimes you don't need accessibilities. For example, the first case, if you hate people, if you want to exclude some people from accessing your application, if you really don't like them, then you don't need accessibilities. You just exclude these people and you're happy. Another case, if you are not working for money, if you don't like money, if you don't need money, maybe then you don't need accessibilities, because the more people you have, the more people will be able to access your product, the more money you will have at the end. This is all about it. But if you don't need the money, then of course, no accessibility for you. Another one, it's really interesting one. If you are a rebel, if you are against the system, if you hate your government, then you don't need accessibilities, because in some countries, accessibility needs to be done by law. For example, in UK, in US, there is a certain requirements that you need to follow, otherwise you will get the lawsuits and you will lose money again. And the last one, the very obvious one, you do not want to support social inclusion in general. Then you don't need accessibilities for sure. Before I start talking about how to test, I think it's really important to understand why you need to test. And I want you to step into someone else's shoes right now and to understand how the disabilities can affect users. In a way to do so, you need to understand what kind of disabilities exist in general and what barriers user will have. So the first one is auditory. This is the hearing. It could be hearing loss, it could be complete deafness. So just imagine the website, whatever content you will have regarding videos, whatever content you will have regarding voice, so all voice video content will not be accessible to these people. Another group is cognitive learning neurological disabilities. So this is more about mental disabilities. It's a bit harder to understand what are the barriers could be on your website. The easiest example here is that your structure on the website is not clear. The wording, the text you're using is not in a really easy readable manner. Another one, for example, you have a lot of GIFs on your website and they're super distracting and the person cannot concentrate on the specific actions that they need to do. So it's also not accessible. Another one, I think the first one that is coming to your mind when you hear about disabilities, is the physical, it's lack of motor ability. And here, the most important thing is that your website, your application, your product is available via keyboard. The next one is speech. It's really similar to auditory one. So a person is lack of ability to speak. Maybe it's complete speechless ability, maybe half, maybe moderate, it doesn't matter. All of the content, again, that will be interacting with your voice will not be available to these people. Another thing, I saw it on a lot of websites, when you leave your phone number, so someone from the company will call you back, this is also no-go if you want to make your website or product accessible. Another one, the last one, is a visual one. Again, it's the easiest one to understand. All of the visual context that you have on your website or on your product will not be accessible. So here the solution, I will tell you more a little bit later, but here the solution is to provide text alternative to a non-text content. So Once you know this, and once I discovered this, I decided to make a challenge for myself. So I download the screen, the reader, basically. I turn off my screen, and I just wanted to hear what's going on my screen and not doing it myself. And I opened the e-commerce platform, and I decided to search for such kind of shoes. So I said, hey, looking for white Vans slip-ons. This is this kind of shoes. And I was surprised what I get at the end of my shopping cart. I'm not kidding right now. I have a challenge for you right now. So maybe you saw these tests already. This is the test to understand if you are colorblind or not, or in what way you are colorblind if you are. So you can see here on the left-hand side in the circle, there is a number. It's the number 12, you can see it right now, because the contrast is pretty good. It's orange on the green, so it's really easy to get. But for you, I found one that is like super complicated to my personal point of view. So right now, I want you to get which number do you see here. You can scream the number if you know. And this is exactly how the people will see your website if it's not accessible. You just physically can't get what is it, because there is nothing. It's the same as people will feel about your not accessible websites. So now we will speak a little bit about theory behind the accessibility testing. So you all know this, I hope you all know this. W3C, this is altogether, no, worldwide consortium. This is the community of developers, community of the tech people that are creating standards, requirements for web in general to make it a better place for everyone. And they have accessibility guidelines as well. And it's really important to understand at what level you need to look for these guidelines, because there are a lot. There are like, I don't know, 1,000, 5,000 different guidelines. And of course, when you start testing and you look at these guidelines, it's impossible to look at all of them and try to test all of them. So that's why they have certain levels. If you look from right to left, there is level A, which is the baseline of accessibility that you have. And on the picture, actually, it's the other way around logically. From the perspective of the person with disabilities, it's super hard for them to understand your website. It would be possible, yes, a little bit, but not really. With the level 2A, it's the baseline, it's the governmental baseline. For example, in the UK, they are asking for the level 2A requirements. So from a person who has disability, from their perspective, it's all right to use them. And the last one, 3A, from their perspective, it's super easy to use. But from a tester perspective or developer's perspective, it's super hard to maintain this. You need a lot of work, and from, let's say, a bug priority perspective, the level A is not super important. The level 3A, if you need these requirements, they are super important. Also, there are principles exist. So when you go to these standards, you need to understand what guidelines you need, and within these guidelines, you have certain principles. The first one is preservability. So it means that it's text for a non-text content. So if you have pictures, if you have buttons, if you have forms, you need to write down what is it. You need to write down that this is a form, this is this certain picture, this is what is going on the video, this is what they are talking about in this video. Another principle is operability. It's really easy to get from the picture that this is basically accessibility of your website through keyboard without the mouse. The next one is a bit tricky. I think it's more for the marketing people and more for designers. So the website or the product in general, it should be structured in a really understandable way. The language that you are using on your website should be clear. There shouldn't be any super technical words, for example, if it's not required, of course. And the last one is robustness. So it means your product needs to maintain past technologies, current technologies, and future technologies. So I think you heard, for the QAs here, you heard about the compatibility testing, or maybe the responsive design, for example. It's all here. It's all about robustness. It's all about working with the third parties. Assistive technologies, for example, the screen readers, or maybe something else. So your product should be accessible through a lot of technologies, the assistive technologies, also with different, let's say, browsers or systems or environments. So once you know all of this, you decided, okay, I'm starting testing. And one thing that you need to tell you every time. So you come home today, you look at the mirror and you tell yourself, test early and test often. This is the most important thing that you need to know in your life. So here, what is important is that you start testing as early as possible. The really good practices and the practice that I'm trying to follow is I'm pairing with my BA to write tickets together and to write the acceptance criteria in a way that some of it is about accessibility testing. Here you can see that you don't really need some separate test cases for that. You don't really need some separate scenarios because it would be too much. It would be excessive, you don't really need it. What you could do is that you could go to these websites, and this World Wide Web Consortium, they created the checklist, so you can just follow the checklist. You can look for the guidelines, for the level of guidelines that you need. You can look for the principles that you need, and just open the checklist and go through checklist. Really easy, really fun. But there is one thing. You don't need to do it manually. You don't need to open this checklist, take your hands, your laptop, and start testing. There are a lot of tools exist, there are a lot of extensions exist that will do this for you. For example, the Wave or the Site Improve, they're really similar. This is two tools that will help you with testing for accessibility, and what they're doing basically. They go through all of the guidelines that exist, and will tell you what is the issue, what's wrong, and so on. Another one, Lighthouse, it's super well known. It's built in the Chrome browser. Another one, X, I don't know much about this, but I know that it exists, so you can just Google yourself. On the right-hand side, this is the accessive technology. So this is the screen readers. If you have Mac, it's already built in. But if you have Microsoft, there is this JAWS for that, or NV Access. And I just wanted to give you the example of the Wave and Site Improve, how it works. So if we go to the website, thecutecats.com, and we run Wave, it's on the left-hand side, and we run Site Improve, it's on the right-hand side, you would see that they're really similar. They are showing how many errors exist, they're showing at what level the errors are, they're showing how severe that errors. But to my personal point of view, Site Improve is a bit easier to understand, and it has better user experience. And another interesting thing is that in the Wave, you can see from the example that it found 47 errors, but Site Improve have found 50, which is 2 more, maybe not that much, not important, but sometimes it could be really crucial. Also, you can automate this. You can automate, but again, accessibility testing is something that needs the real human for that. So when you're doing this, when you're trying to automate, it would be just the basic, it would be just the baseline that you need to follow. What we are using at my current project, it's the second one, it's a Pi 11Y. So our developers, they build it in. So whenever you want to push something, whenever you want to push your code, you can just do npm run and it will check in your HTML code, and it basically gives you a report of what kind of errors do you have and what do you need to fix. So now you're on your way home and you're coming home, and let's say you want to test your website really quick, or you're just curious about this whole topic about accessibility and you just want to do something just a little bit, just super fast. So here are 1, 2, 3, 4 basic things that you can do at home or even right now on your mobile phone. The first one, really important, is to check your color contrast. There are a lot of extensions for Google Chrome, for Firefox. If someone is using Firefox here, I'm not judging, but you know. Another thing is that you make sure that your site is keyboard friendly. So just put your mouse away and try to use your website or your product, your app, without the mouse. Sometimes it's really interesting and really funny if you have tables or Excel sheets built in the website on the page, and if they have, let's say, 1,000 or 5,000 rows, sometimes with the help of keyboard you go in this table, but you cannot go out, so you need to go through 5,000 rows just to get out, and it will take you like 20 minutes just to click on another button, let's say. Another thing you can check is check for the alt text. So all of the images you have, or maybe buttons you have, you can check for the alt text and see what it says there. Just maybe in the Lighthouse, you can also do, let's say, poor internet connection, and then your images will not simply load, and then you will see what's going on if the images are not there, what text is present. Another one, this is basically the suggestions from this consortium, from this community. They said that it's really good to check if your content can be zoomed up to 200%. So for people who can't see really great, or just in general, it's really interesting to see how your site will break if you zoom that much. And that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening.
Okay, we have some questions from Discord
Yep.
while they take the bravery to take the microphone. By your example, imagine we have two groups of users with visibility issues and with dyslexia, for example, those who can't read text. For the first group, we need to add more text than visual. For the second group, more visuals than text. What is the best approach in this case? Since we're doing good for one group, we're making bad for the other.
Altogether, it depends. But it really depends on what the requirements you have, because sometimes requirements coming from your government, and it's explicitly saying there that you need to do this and this, this and this for such groups. Sometimes requirements could be coming from your peers. For example, you have labels in a certain colors, and they are not really accessible for colorblind people. But it doesn't matter, because it's their official labels, and whatever you want, it doesn't matter, because this is coming from your PO, and this is what you need to follow. So...
Thank you very much. There is another one. It's a longer. How do you test your website for accessibility? Do you make it work for a specific accessibility software that works, or multiple software applications?
For example, 4 different browsers work almost entirely different with JAWS, I'm not sure. And the same, 4 browsers work differently on another accessibility software compared to the behavior on JAWS software.
How do you test your website?
Do you want me to answer?
Yes, please.
Altogether, it depends. This is the best answer, by the way.
I didn't get the question. What is this asking
Okay,
for?
please, Stefan Kirillov, please rephrase your question, and Lena will answer you in Discord or by email.
Yep,
Okay.
sure.
So thank you very, very much. And if some of you have other questions, you can find Lena and ask her personally.
On Discord or here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, applause for Lena.
Thank you.